Marvel vs. Capcom is a fighting game series known for over-the-top gameplay, taking characters from Marvel comics such as X-Men and Spider-Man and stretching their combat abilities to their maximum potential, with attacks that fill the screen and moves that send them or their opponent flying across the screen. With the announcement of the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, I wanted to take a look back at how the combat of these games have evolved over the years. This is a lot of information to remember for someone who has never played these games before, but I've already made short guides for some of these titles. This video will still follow a tutorial format, split into chapters to showcase information as well as possible. I have been working on guides for these games since the collection was announced, but now that it's releasing soon, I've got to wrap this project up with the video I originally wanted to make. This is a comprehensive list of the systems and mechanics that make playing the Versus series fun for everyone. It's less of a gameplay guide and more of a gameplay history. Let's get started. Starting with the basics, every Versus game in the collection borrows from the combat system of Street Fighter II, using 3 punch attacks and 3 kick attacks, each divided into 3 categories: light, medium, and heavy. In most of the games, each of these attacks have their own button, but that changes in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where medium attacks are only available as follow-ups to light attacks, and attack systems are accessed with your 2 partner assist buttons. Each attack button changes the speed, range, and power of your normal attacks that are performed by pressing single buttons while standing, crouching, or jumping. With the exception of character-specific normals known as unique attacks, sometimes called command normals, which you perform while holding a specific direction and pressing a button, along with unblockable throws, which are performed by pressing left or right when near the opponent, along with a specific medium or heavy attack button. There are throws that toss your opponent away or to the ground, and holds, which lock the opponent in place while you hit them repeatedly. Press or mash the attack buttons repeatedly to increase the damage from holds. Hold left or right to walk forwards or backwards, press down to crouch, and up to jump. You can immediately go beyond the boundaries of the screen with a super jump by quickly pressing down, then up. Perform quick horizontal movement by quickly tapping left twice or right twice to dash across the screen. You can also perform a dash or super jump by pressing multiple buttons at the same time, such as 3 punch buttons or 3 kick buttons. Some characters can jump off walls, jump multiple times, hover, fly, and air dash. Combine dashes, jumps, and your character's unique air movement for maximum screen control. On defense, hold back to block while standing, crouching, and even while jumping. Air blocking defends every attack that can be blocked, and in some games, you can use advancing guard after blocking to push the enemy away. Recover when knocked down by rolling, and tech throws to neutralize them. The inputs for these defensive options will sometimes change from game to game, so I'll mention them later. Specials and super moves are more character-specific attacks that damage the opponent even when they're blocking, and are usually performed with multiple directional inputs and the press of 1 or more attack buttons right after you input the last direction. For example, with Ryu, try down, down forward, forward, plus 1 punch button for a special move, and if you have 1 or more levels of meter, press 2 punches instead. After enough attacks are used, your character's meter will level up, giving access to high-powered super moves at the cost of some meter. In all of the Versus games, combo is the key, and combos are easier than ever before thanks to the chain combo system, also known as Magic Series. Borrowing this system from Darkstalkers, you can follow up light or medium normal attacks directly into other stronger normals with a lot less worry about precise timing compared to other fighting games. Combine this open combat system with the fast and free movement options to take your opponents for a wild ride. This covers the basic mechanics found in the entire Versus series. Now for controls and mechanics unique to each game, and aspects of them that will change throughout the Versus series. If you're not sure which fighter to start with, you could always try random select. Aside from the obvious method, some of the games have a secret command for activating random select. In Marvel Superheroes or X-Men vs. Street Fighter, just hold left or right for more than 2 seconds to activate it, then press a button to pick your character. But as far as I know, it's only available in those 2 games. Instead, in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom 1, you input secret commands in order to access secret characters, which have modified movesets from familiar characters. Characters started with 1 main outfit and 1 alternate color for mirror matches. You couldn't choose them in Children of the Atom, but in Marvel Superheroes, if you found one you liked, you had to enter another secret command. Hold up or down, depending on the character's placement on the screen, for more than 4 seconds, then press a button to pick their alternate color. In every game up to Marvel vs. Capcom 1, it's as easy as pressing one button to pick an outfit for everyone. Well, almost everyone. All you have to do is press a punch button to pick their primary color, and a kick button to pick their second color. While the arcade versions only had 2 colors to choose from, the console ports of these games started to add more colors, and even extra effects. The extra colors finally reached the arcade releases with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. After certain requirements are met, each character will have 6 different colors, one for each button. After picking a character, you'll have another choice to make depending on the game. In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, this is when you select your assist type attacks for your team, and, well, there's so much to say about them that it could fit into its own section. We'll get back to that. Back in Children of the Atom, this is where you would choose between Manual Guard and Automatic Guard. Auto Guard will automatically defend against attacks for you, as long as you weren't attacking yourself. It could be a particularly strong mode in that game, as it activates even when walking forward, and doesn't activate within a certain range of your opponent, or at least it would be if you didn't take damage from every type of attack while blocking. In Marvel Superheroes, Auto Mode had to be activated first in the arcade setting menus, and is only available as a limited arcade mode as a tutorial, with a few matches against the computer that gave you advice before and after each match. A surprisingly helpful idea, and even though the tutorial is only in this game, all players are able to receive advice after losing the match during the continue screen. Aside from the tutorial, Auto Mode in X-Men vs. Street Fighter has some new features. It gives you a bit of help when it comes to doing combos. When you press light punch and light kick at the same time, your character will automatically perform an attack that knocks the enemy into the air, then they'll automatically jump to form a follow-up attack. Although I can't exactly say how useful this is because of how short the combo is. Auto Mode even shrinks the maximum amount of meter you can hold. I guess it at least gives a good idea of what attack to use in order to launch your opponent, and it also has a unique quirk where you can use it after any and every normal attack on the ground, even if it's also the launcher. That quirk goes away next game, but brings some improvements. Auto Mode is replaced in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter with Easy Mode, and Auto Guard is replaced with Easy Combos. On the ground or in the air, press the same attack button multiple times to automatically perform follow-up attacks or special moves. Each button has a different combo, and if you launch the enemy, your character will chase them automatically, but without the single hit follow-up, so you can choose the air combo for yourself. However, I've got some good news and bad news. Good news is the restriction on your meter is gone, and if you have trouble performing Street Fighter style inputs, Easy Mode lets you do supers without pressing any directions. The bad news is, if you prefer to use button shortcuts for dashing or super jumps, the easy supers will take priority over your movement. Pressing 2 punches or 2 kicks performs a super, but so does 3 punches and 3 kicks. Easy Mode returns in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 with the same issue, and in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it's only available in later versions like the PS2 and Xbox release. This mode isn't completely forgotten though. The easy launcher from X-Men vs. Street Fighter made its way into normal mode in the next game, and in the game after that, minus the auto super jump. It's not in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but these ideas do go on to influence changes in future titles. Going back to character select for standard fights, Turbo Speed makes its debut in Marvel Superheroes from Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, where you choose between normal speed and 1 turbo speed. This affects the visual speed of the match, and most importantly, affects how precise you have to be when using many techniques like how fast you have to perform special moves or escape throws. It's not a bad idea to start with normal speed to get used to playing the game first, but in competitive matches, you should always pick turbo. X-Men vs. Street Fighter introduces 2 different turbo speed options, so that brings up the question, do you pick Turbo 1 or Turbo 2? Because turbo can affect older games differently, it's not always as simple as just picking the highest setting, but in this case, it is. Marvel Superheroes and Marvel vs. Capcom 2 only have 1 turbo speed in the arcade version, so you would pick Turbo 1. And for every game of turbo that goes up to 2, Turbo 2 is the preferred setting. Now, let's get moving. Starting with movement, dashing allows you to quickly move across the screen at any time with little to no risk. And that's because you can interrupt your dash with movement, attacks, and just block while moving forward. It also increases the range of your normal jumps. Combined with super jumps, which allow you to drift left or right in the air freely, it's so easy to move around the screen, and it creates a unique flow to combat compared with 2D games where all the action is on one screen. Dashes and super jumps can be performed by pressing multiple punches or multiple kicks at the same time. In Children of the Atom, the dash shortcut command was 2 punches and the super jump shortcut was all 3 kicks. The next game changed dash to all 3 punches, and Marvel 2 changes back to 2 punches, because Marvel 2 only has 4 normal attack buttons. But for some reason, the super jump shortcut is gone. Getting 3 attack buttons to activate at the same time in some of these games can be surprisingly difficult, so if you're playing on a standard controller and not using easy mode, I would recommend setting a button to activate multiple punches or kicks, similar to the control layout in the console ports. But if you miss easy specials and supers, you'll have plenty of options to do both in the MVC Fighting Collection, similar to the Capcom Fighting Collection. A quirk specific to Children of the Atom is that landing a hit during a dash tends to push you and knock airborne opponents farther back a larger distance than normal after they've been hit. However, the pushback on some attacks could be decreased by crouching, and dash attacks had extra benefit of giving you more time to combo and a slight increase of damage from medium and heavy normals. Those benefits are gone in every other game, and the pushback caused by dash attacks has been greatly reduced. It's actually easier to do longer combos if you dash first, instead of if you were standing still. Exclusive to Children of the Atom, you can cancel the recovery of all normal attacks with a super jump, even if the attack missed or before it comes out at all. In fact, you could do entire chain combos on the ground without reaching anybody. With that gone, you have to actually make contact with the opponent in order to keep up the pressure, aside from certain repeatable normal attacks. It makes combat a little less chaotic on the ground, but not in the air. For each character, there can be a difference in chain combos they do on the ground, after a normal jump, and after a super jump. In Children of the Atom, after a normal jump, you are only allowed to do 2 air attacks, along with a special or super. Marvel Superheroes properly introduces the Aerial Rave combo system, where you can do a full Magic Series combo in the air, and some attacks on the ground cause a dedicated launching state. Children of the Atom had a general knockback state that allowed you to combo off of anything if your next attack reached in time. But this new, straight-up launch state makes super jump combos a bit easier. In fact, if you use a dedicated ground launcher or a dedicated anti-air launcher, now all you have to do is hold up for an easier super jump follow-up instead of pressing down then up. Just make sure to hit them before they start falling back down, or they'll be able to block. This updated juggle system also introduces a new effect. During an aerial rave, performing certain attacks after enough hits, usually heavy normal attacks, will slam your opponent to the ground, sending them flying across the screen. During this flying screen effect, your opponent is not able to get off the ground, and if you're close enough, you can pick them up off the ground for more damage. In Marvel Superheroes, this is only possible after a super jump aerial rave, and was changed to include normal jumps in the next game. The recovery of normal attacks can be cancelled into special moves or super moves. In Street Fighter, this is only possible with certain attacks, giving those attacks more focus and variety. In the Versus series, that variety extends to all of your attacks. Every normal can be cancelled. Use this variety to your advantage. Use different attacks, different movement, and different timing to be as unpredictable as possible. Super moves, known as Hyper X moves in Children of the Atom, Infinity combos in Marvel Superheroes, or Hyper combos in the rest. No matter what you call them, they often serve the same purpose. High-powered, multi-hit attacks that usually make you invincible when activated, and easily shift the odds in your favor, at the cost of some meter. What makes them stand out for most fighters is that here, mashing attack buttons during most super moves will increase their hits and damage. In Children of the Atom, the command for each character's super on the main roster was the same, involving directional inputs then pressing all 3 punches at once. It's also the only game where you don't build meter if your attacks miss. In future games, the inputs have more variety. They usually just require one of the motions you'll find common with moves in Street Fighter, but instead of 2 motions, you just press 2 attack buttons. For example, press down, down forward, forward, plus any 2 punches. This becomes the standard for the rest of the series. In Marvel Superheroes, the maximum amount of meter a character could have is character specific. Some characters only get 1 stock of meter, some get 2, and some get a maximum of 3. In X-Men vs. Street Fighter, every team can have a maximum of 3 levels until Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where teams have a maximum of 5. Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter is the first in the series to have level 3 super moves, and since the beginning, this meter served more than one purpose in every game. In Children of the Atom, when your meter is at level 2 or higher, you can spend it to activate your fighter's X power. These moves cause enhancements or effects related to your fighter's mutant ability, which can be as simple as restoring health or giving you better defense. But they can be just as unique as your fighter's special moves, so I won't have time to list all of their command inputs or effects here. But you might be interested in hearing that flight is considered an X power, but that changes in the next game. In Marvel Superheroes, the X power system was removed, and some of those techniques were changed into special moves or gem abilities. The 6 Infinity Gems were part of a system exclusive to this game, where attacking your enemy caused items to drop on the ground, which you can pick up and activate to power up your character. Effects include increased speed, defense, refilling health, and more. And specific extra power-ups when using a gem that character prefers. This item system doesn't return, but the idea of temporary power-ups returns in Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter in the form of super moves that are commonly referred to by players as installs. But unlike future titles, when you switch characters, then bring them back in, their install is immediately, uninstalled. So if you were expecting something a bit more permanent, go with the power-ups in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2. You can use a meter with certain characters to change their moveset and give them new attacks. And if you want, you can spend a little more to change back any time. Speaking of Marvel vs. Capcom 1, I can't miss a chance to mention the duo team attack, where you press down, down, back, back, with 3 levels of meter to attack with both of your characters at the same time, for a limited time, while having unlimited access to supers. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is the first game in the series to let you combo from special moves into super moves, then cancel super moves into other super moves, or at least it's the first arcade game to do that. This has actually existed in the console versions of the games since the PS1 ports of X-Men vs. Street Fighter, known as EX Edition in Japan. These ports have enough additions and changes that can fit into its own video, and I'll probably make that video someday. But due to the limitations of the console's hardware and memory, it comes with a major cost. You can't tag between your characters. And speaking of tag, X-Men vs. Street Fighter is the first game in the series to have 2 vs. 2 tag combat, known as the variable system. Or should I call it the crossover system? The answer to that depends on what game you're playing and which version you're playing, so to make it less confusing, it looks like I'm going to have to use the terms that competitive players use instead. So in games with a tag system, matches are no longer split into rounds and end when all characters on one team are knocked out. Whenever your fighter takes damage, some of their health bar will turn red. This red health will slowly recover back to normal when that fighter is switched out with your partner. However, if you switch back to them for any reason, including after your partner has been knocked out, all of their recoverable health will be lost immediately. After a knockout, the partner character will jump onto the screen at a specific angle, immediately putting them on defense. You can still attack or block to protect yourself, but you've got to be ready to choose one against experienced players before they make the choice for you. There are multiple ways to tag in your partner. Press heavy punch and heavy kick at the same time to perform a tag attack, and have your opponent dive in with a flying kick that knocks your opponent away. In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where you have 2 assists, you will press light punch and light kick to tag in with your first partner character, and heavy punch and heavy kick to tag in with your second. Be careful though, your fighter may be invincible when tagging out, but the next fighter is not when tagging in. Plus, after a tag attack, your fighter always performs a taunt animation that can't be interrupted. If your attack gets blocked, you're in trouble. You have to find a safe time among the chaos of the fight to use it safely. Think of it as another special move, because in these games, you can combo into it from normal attacks. Or tag out with one of the other tag systems, which can be performed offensively or defensively. Offensively, you can spend 2 or more levels of meter for a team hyper combo, where both of your characters will form a hyper combo, filling the screen with attacks. Activate this by pressing down, down, forward, forward, plus heavy punch and heavy kick. When the attacks end, you'll automatically switch characters, unless you're playing MVC2. When you activate it here by pressing both of your partner assist buttons, you can spend 1 to 3 levels to do a team hyper combo, where the number of attackers depend on how much meter you used. Defensively, you can perform the variable counter, pressing back plus heavy punch and heavy kick while blocking on the ground, or one of your assist buttons in Marvel 2 to bring a partner character in to perform a special move while invincible. You could say the system existed since Children of the Atom, where you could do supers extremely fast during a block. This ability to cancel your own guard becomes a proper mechanic thanks to other games, like the Infinity Counter in MSH. Borrowing this mechanic from Street Fighter Alpha 1, you can spend one level of meter blocking to interrupt your opponent's attacks with one of your own. In every game on the collection, the buttons you press may change, but the directional input is the same. Down, down back, and down, plus one or more buttons. One attack button in MS Sage, heavy punch and heavy kick in every game up to Marvel 2, and in Marvel 2, press one of the assist buttons. When using this counter in Marvel 2, you'll switch fighters before doing the attack. Just be warned that the invincibility doesn't last for the entire attack. During tag counters or combos, you can still be hit. But if you are blocking, there is a new mechanic to look out for, the advancing guard. At any point in time while you're blocking, hold forward and press all three punches to push your opponent far away. Use it to disrupt your opponent's defense, making their attacks miss, and give you an unexpected chance to punish them. You can also perform a tag counter after an advancing guard if you're on the ground, as another way to attack safely. And in MVC2, a bit more. Because the counter attack is a special move, you can combo that directly into a super move. There's a couple more tag systems to talk about, which were introduced after X-Men vs. Street Fighter. In Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, the assist system was introduced. Pressing medium punch and medium kick causing your partner character to perform one attack, then leave. In Marvel 2, each of your partners has their own dedicated button in order to activate them. But here, it's hard to say how useful it was. On one hand, you can use them infinitely, but when calling an assist, you're locked into a taunt animation for a brief period. Not only can you be hit during this, so can your assist. In Marvel vs. Capcom 1, this variable assist system was changed to the special partner system. After selecting your team, a third character is chosen randomly, or chosen by you, by holding a specific button combination for each partner. Each partner has a different type of attack, and of course, some are better than others, but they all have a different, limited amount of times you can call them during the match. It's still an improvement from last game, because it takes less time to activate them. In Marvel vs. Capcom 2, assists go back to using characters on your team and introduce assist types. Now there's about 13 types, and because the name of the type doesn't always describe what the attack is, I will take the time to describe every single type. Get ready. The first one is obvious. Projectile assists are attacks that travel across the screen independent of your fighter. Dash types are attacks where the entire character charges forward. Ground types are attacks that simply attack from or close to the ground, which can also include projectiles. Anti-air types are attacks with above average reach towards the sky that can often hit airborne opponents, even better than they can hit you. Launcher types are specifically the moves each fighter has that lead into an aerial rave. But don't worry, we're getting right back to unspecific stuff. Expansion types are multi-hit attacks that usually don't knock the opponent away, so they make for a good way to start or extend combos. But there's also single-hit moves that also happen to launch. Variety types are, to be honest, the name fits, because they have a very similar function to other assist types, be an alternate version of an assist they have, or a property completely unlike the other types, like the ones that knock the enemy down, but do nothing else. They have a variety of effects. What more can I say? Well, I heard balanced type assists are supposed to be ones that combine properties of other assists, but many of them are exactly the same as their assists, or completely unrelated. So, what's the point of this? The actual point is that whenever you choose an assist type, that determines what tag counterattack that fighter uses, and sometimes the attack used during the team hyper combo. Balance type gives a chance to balance out your options. The rest are much easier to explain. Capture type attacks lock your opponent in place, leading to easy damage. Throw types are unblockable grabs. Air throw is an unblockable air grab. Heal types have a character bring out an item you can pick up to restore health. And enhanced types bring out an item that boosts the character's attack or defense for a limited time. Whew! All done. But if you don't remember half of that, don't worry. It's more important to be familiar with what the actual moves are instead of the types. And most of all, remember that Marvel 2 was the first in the series to let you immediately cancel the taunt animation from calling an assist. And now, you can call assists while moving and jumping. Assists in Marvel 2 can be used infinitely, aside from a brief recharge time between each use, but if you're up against a fighter with a really annoying assist, or just really need to take down an important piece of your opponent's team, use the snapback attack. Introduced in Marvel 2, you press down, down forward, then forward, plus a partner button to remove your opponent's current fighter from play for a couple seconds. That character can't be used for any tag systems or assists, then forces a teammate to jump in the same way they would if the last character had been knocked out, which definitely spells trouble in this game. It costs one level of meter to activate, and the button you press determines which of their characters gets tagged in. That wraps up all of the tag systems in the series so far. The next section will talk about defensive moves, extra mechanics that exist separate from attack and defense, and then I'll wrap this up by explaining the one thing about attacking in this series that makes it stand out the most, makes it easy to pick up and play, and just makes it the most fun. Well, to me anyway. In Street Fighter, once you get knocked down, you can't be hit again until you get back up. And that's not the case in the Versus series. In future titles, there's only specific attacks that can hit you while you're on the ground. But in these games, any attack that can reach you will hit you. But you can recover off the ground faster to avoid some of these attacks by rolling. In Children of the Atom, the command to roll was to press forward or back in any attack button. However, the amount of time you had to wait before you could perform a tech roll wasn't the same for every character. In Marvel Superheroes, ground recovery after any knockdown was made faster and more similar across the cast, and rolling was given a new input that's similar to tag counters. Before your character is completely on the ground, quickly input back, down, back, then down plus any attack button. Just keep in mind that you can't perform a roll if you've been knocked down to the ground from an aerial rave combo. In some of these games, throws are extremely powerful. Some of them lead to a guaranteed combo, while others allow you to roll after hitting the ground to escape extra damage and pressure. Children of the Atom has a mix of both. You actually had to spend meter in that game to escape throws, but compared to how throws normally work in 2D games, tech hits were extremely easy. All you had to do is be holding down and press all 3 punches. There's almost no timing required, especially with pressing the buttons. You could already be holding some of the inputs before a throw, then finish the rest before the throw is finished. The really unique part about teching throws here is that fighters escape throws in different ways. Some characters will escape only take part of the damage of the throw, and others will counter the throw entirely. Whichever type of tech hit your fighter has, you'll need to have about 2 levels of X power to do it. But in every game after this, the opportunity to tech throws goes back to the usual strict timing from Street Fighter, where you basically have to guess or predict when a grab is coming. To perform a throw, you have to tap or hold forward or back, then press the medium or heavy attack button depending on which throw or hold they have. When breaking throws, you can hold either direction and press any of those attack buttons to escape. In Marvel Superheroes, throws do damage in 2 distinct parts, so if you fail to escape the initial grab, you can still do a tech hit before touching the ground to avoid the second part of the damage. In X-Men vs Street Fighter, all of the damage happens before they're launched, and the purpose of the tech hit is to avoid getting hit while on the ground. But there are still throws that launch your opponent into the air so you can combo with them before they have a chance to roll. This changes next game, and stays that way until Marvel vs Capcom 2, where throws are considered weak, especially in comparison to future games. However, if you show me any exceptions to this change, I wouldn't be surprised. Now for extra mechanics. If you want to switch your team around before the match starts, hold all 3 punches in XvSF, or hold the partner button for that character in MVC2 to start with them at the beginning of the match. If the other games let you do this, I don't know the command for it. If a match in Children of the Atom ends in a tie, the winner is decided by sudden death, where they have 30 seconds to be the first one to land 1 hit, and chip damage from specials or supers do not work. When the match is over, you can interrupt your fighter's win pose by pressing start, select, whatever, to lay on a few extra hits. Make sure to lay on as many hits as possible at one time to dizzy your opponent. How close your fighter is to getting stunned is reflected in your character's face panel, which changes from blue to yellow to red. If you do get stunned, make sure to mash some buttons to get out of it faster. This stun visual is removed after the first 2 games, so there's no way to tell how close someone is to getting stunned in XvSF. But in XvSF, there's a meter displayed behind the timer, only to remove stun in MVC1, then change how it works in MVC2. Usually, dizzy stuns are considered a reward for successful offense, but in MVC2, it's used as a way to stop offense, since the opponent becomes invincible during this animation and can block when it's over. Stun sets up the perfect opportunity to use a super move, but you can always go for a taunt instead. In Children of the Atom, not every character has one, and not all of them are as simple as pressing the start or select or options whatever button. However, they're not just for show. They have extra benefits like building meter or doing damage. In Marvel superheroes, every character now has a taunt, and they all share the same input. Because the start button was used to switch what infinity gem you want to use, the taunt command became down twice, then start. However, they no longer give you special effects, as far as I know. They just give you a slight amount of meter and a way to style on your opponent. After this, the command for taunts go back to the standard single button press and don't build meter for you, aside from a few special cases.
Now, the last thing I want to mention is in regards to chain combos, or the Magic series. After all, combo is the key. And because even the most basic of combos are fun and easy to do, I'm saving this for last because I want you to remember this the most. In Street Fighter, there are some normal attacks that can be repeated so easily that you can mash the button and do combos with just one attack. In this series, you can combo pretty much all of your normal attacks without any strict timing. The attacks that combo into each other are different for each character. They can also be different for that character during their ground combos, jump combos, and super jump combos. Super jump combos lead to the most easy damage, so to start off with, you'll want to try doing a short ground combo that ends in a launcher, then continue the combo with an aerial rave. You don't have to wait for the jump to finish before starting your air attack. And because a lot of air attacks last way longer than ground attacks, you can do an air attack, wait to see if the attack connected, then still have plenty of time to do the next hit. The hard part, instead of timing the attack, is figuring out which attack will reach in time, and what attack continues the chain. In Children of the Atom, there are 7 different types of chain combos, but a lot of them follow the similar idea anyway. These types gradually shrink into the ones that stand out the most, and the ones that are the most easy to remember. The idea you need to remember the most as a beginner is light, medium, heavy. Start with a light punch or kick, then a medium attack, into a heavy attack. Even the combo routes aren't too strict, because once you've found the right string, you can skip ahead to any button in the chain. If you wanted me to explain what each of the characters' chain combo types are, well, that was something I did at the end of each previous video, but doing it for something like MVC2 alone might take another 10 minutes. I've already been working on this project non-stop since the first announcement, much less the release date. So if you really want to know about that, I could make a follow-up video about how to combo in every game in the collection later, but for now, that's enough said. Have fun, thanks for watching, and get ready for a new challenger.
A new opponent is ready to face you.